This is a story of power, greed, and karma, all centered in Lagos. Lagos was a city of two extremes. On one side, it was the land of dreams, where wealth was measured in private jets, luxury yachts, and billionaire mansions. On the other hand, it was a graveyard of broken souls, where poverty crushed ambition before it even had a chance to grow. Aisha Kalu was born into the wrong side of Lagos. Her family lived in a slum where the air was thick with the scent of stale sweat, street food, and unfulfilled promises. Her father, Alhaji Kalu, had once been a proud mechanic, but when the economy crumbled, so did his spirit. He drowned himself in cheap gin, leaving his wife to shoulder the burden of survival. Mama Aisha was a woman of silent suffering, selling peppers and tomatoes in the market, barely making enough to keep food on the table. But even that was never enough. Hunger was Aisha's first teacher. She learnt that poverty stripped away dignity, that without money you were invisible. And she vowed, at just 12 years old, that she would never live like this forever. By the time Aisha was 15, she knew that beauty was a currency. She had smooth caramel skin, sharp cheekbones, and a body that drew attention wherever she went. The first man to make an offer was Mr. O, the landlord of their one-room apartment. One evening, as she sat outside, he walked up to her, his eyes lingering where they shouldn't. "You're a fine girl, Aisha," he murmured, slipping a thick envelope into her hands. "You shouldn't suffer like this." She knew what it meant. She could have screamed, thrown the money back at him, but she thought of her mother's tired eyes, her younger siblings' empty stomachs, the eviction notice nailed to their door, and she made a choice. The first time was unpleasant, a violation of her soul. But when she opened the envelope and saw the crisp Naira notes, something inside her shifted. For the first time, she felt powerful. Aisha vowed to never be powerless again. At 18, she left home. She moved to living with a friend who introduced her to higher-paying clients. She reinvented herself. She learned to speak with confidence, walk with grace, and study men like prey. By 19, she stopped dealing with broke men. She chased power. She stopped dealing with small men like Mr. O. She studied wealthy women, observing how they moved, spoke, and commanded respect. She reinvented herself. She stopped using cheap perfume and learned how to walk in high heels, like she was born in them. Then, one fateful night at Echo Lounge, she met Chief O, a real estate tycoon who could buy half of Lagos without blinking. He was rich, powerful, and bored, and Aisha was exactly what he needed. She played her role perfectly. The mysterious, seductive, ambitious young woman who made him feel alive again. Within weeks, she was no longer in a jail. Chief Olu set her up in a luxury Ikoyi penthouse, away from the slums that once trapped her. But Aisha wasn't just a kept woman. She was watching, learning, planning. She wanted more. She knew exactly what he wanted, and she gave it to him. Soon, he was obsessed. But Aisha was never satisfied with just being a mistress. She wanted to be the one pulling the strings, and that was how the Black Rose Society was born. At 23, Aisha controlled Lagos nightlife and founded the Black Rose Society, not just another escort service, but an exclusive elite ring that catered to the country's richest and most powerful men. Her girls were trained to be more than just beautiful. They were polished, educated, and deadly in the art of seduction. Her girls weren't cheap prostitutes. They were trophies for the rich. Politicians, CEOs, foreign investors, and even royalty all came to the Black Rose for pleasure. But power comes with enemies and a darker side. Some of these girls were sent abroad, promised Ed wealth and a glamorous lifestyle. But many were sold into trafficking rings in Dubai, Italy, and France. Some never returned, Aisha knew. But to her, it was just business, and business was booming. Other madams in Lagos saw her as a threat. One in particular, Madam J, had been ruling the underground sex industry for decades. She didn't like that a young upstart like Aisha was stealing her clients. "You think you're untouchable, little girl?" Madam J had once sneered. "You have no idea what you've started." Aisha laughed her off. She thought she was invincible. 3 months later, Aisha's driver was found dead, shot execution style in Lekki. No robbery. No explanation. Just a warning. Aisha knew who sent the message. Madam J. She had 2 options: back down and disappear, or fight back. She chose war and fought back. Aisha struck. She bribed a government official to shut down one of Madam J's clubs for illegal operations. Madam J retaliated worse by setting one of Aisha's high-end brothels on fire, and the war continued. Aisha's power grew. Her wealth was immeasurable. Bentleys, designer bags, diamond watches, and private jets. But power always comes at a price. Someone was coming for her. Aisha made a mistake, and then the real danger came when one of her top girls, escaped from an elite sex ring in Dubai, had always been one of Aisha's best girls. But when she was sent to Dubai, she was sold to a powerful Arab businessman and locked away like a prisoner. She barely escaped with her life. When she returned to Nigeria, she didn't just want revenge. She wanted justice. She exposed everything. And the moment Aisha heard the news, she knew her time was up. She underestimated Zainab, who had been watching everything, and she was about to betray her in the worst way possible. Instead of staying silent, Zainab went to Interpol. Names, locations, bank accounts, everything. Interpol launched a full-scale investigation into human trafficking. One by one, Aisha's powerful allies abandoned her. Even Chief Olamide, the man who once worshipped her, refused to take her calls. She wasn't a queen anymore. She was a liability. The last person she trusted was Monica, her best friend and right-hand woman. Aisha called her, desperate, asking for a way out. Monica agreed to meet her. But when Aisha arrived at the secret location, Interpol was waiting. Monica had been working with them for months. "I'm sorry, Aisha," Monica whispered. "You knew this day would come." Aisha screamed, fought, cursed, but it was over. The trial was a spectacle. The media called her the Black Widow of Lagos. Her victims testified against her. Her secrets were exposed. And the judge didn't hesitate. 30 years in prison. No parole, no mercy. The once feared queen of Lagos nightlife was now just another inmate. Years passed. Aisha became a forgotten name. Her money was gone. Her power was gone. And nobody cared. Back in Ajegunle, young girls still dreamed of escaping poverty. Some still whispered her name in admiration, not realizing that she was a prisoner of her own choices. Moral lesson: not all shortcuts lead to paradise. Some lead straight to hell.
Did you enjoy this story? Please drop your comments in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. This is the story of Anastasia Monroe, the Queen of Elegance. She graced the covers of magazines, headlined conference on empowerment, and was the epitome of Black excellence. Born and raised in a modest neighborhood in Detroit, Anastasia's rise to power was the stuff of legend, a rags to riches story everyone wanted to believe. Her billion-dollar cosmetic empire, Monroe Majestic, was celebrated for championing inclusivity with shades for every skin tone. The media adored her and the public worshipped her. Yet, behind her dazzling smile and flawless exterior, Anastasia lived a life so sinister that even the boldest tabloids couldn't dare to imagine it. Anastasia's husband, Michael, was a former R&B heartthrob turned philanthropist. To the world, they were the perfect couple. Red carpet, hand-holding, stolen kisses. Every photo a masterpiece of love. But in their lavish mansion, there was no love, only cold silence. Michael had long stopped pretending to love Anastasia. His heart belonged to Marcus, his college sweetheart, a fact Anastasia had known for years. She tolerated it, not out of grace but calculation. Their marriage was a mutual beneficial arrangement. Michael's sexuality remained hidden, preserving his public image, while Anastasia gained a handsome, charming accessory to complete her perfect facade. Anastasia had a younger sister, Tamara, a brilliant but troubled soul who lived in Anastasia's shadow. Tamara had struggled with addiction for years, something Anastasia kept hidden to protect her brand. But Tamara, fed up with being silenced, threatened to go public with a tell-all book. "I am not going to let you bury me like you did, Mom," Tamara screamed one night during a family dinner. Michael, sitting across the table, stiffened at the accusation. Anastasia's mother had died in a tragic house fire years ago. A fire that, rumor had it, started because of a heated argument between Anastasia and her mother. No evidence ever linked Anastasia to the blaze, but Tamara knew the truth, and she was no longer afraid of her sister. Anastasia's wickedness wasn't just a mask she wore. It was deeply embedded in her soul. Years ago, during the height of her meteoric rise, she had killed a young chemist named Leona, who had threatened to expose her darkest secrets. Anastasia had stolen the formula that launched her empire. The murder wasn't a feat of rage, but a calculated act. Anastasia lured Leona to her penthouse under the guise of a reconciliation meeting, poisoned her drink, and disposed of the body in a remote lake. She cried on television when Leona was declared missing, even offering a $500,000 reward for information. Her performance was so convincing that no one ever suspected her. The cracks in Anastasia's perfect life began to widen when Michael fell in love with Marcus again, this time recklessly. His frequent absences raised questions from the media. Paparazzi photos of Michael and Marcus surfaced online, igniting whispers. Anastasia, desperate to maintain control, issued a public statement about Michael's business partner and tightened her grip on his life. Simultaneously, Tamara leaked snippets of her book online, including the revelation about their mother's death. "The Perfect Shadow," Tamara titled her exposé. Anastasia threatened to sue, but her legal team warned her that it would only bring more attention to the claims. And then, someone from her past reappeared. Leona's younger brother, a journalist named Darren, who had grown suspicious of Anastasia's involvement in his sister's disappearance. Darren, armed with years of research and a trail of circumstantial evidence, confronted Anastasia at a charity gala. Cornering her in a dimly lit hallway, he whispered, "I know what you did to Leona." Anastasia's heart raced, but her face remained composed. Be careful with your accusations, she said. People have a way of disappearing when they play with fire. But Darren wasn't afraid. I have recordings, documents, and if anything happens to me, the world will know everything. For the first time in her life, Anastasia felt trapped. Anastasia's empire began to crumble. Darren's expose went viral, bringing renewed attention to Leona's case. Michael, tired of Anastasia's lies, filed for divorce and publicly came out, painting her as a manipulative, controlling woman. Tamara's book was published, and though Anastasia tried to discredit her sister, the public began to see through the cracks in her image. Police reopened the investigation into her mother's death and Leona's disappearance. Anastasia, once untouchable, found herself suffocated by the consequences of her own action. In a desperate attempt to reclaim her power, Anastasia held a press conference. She wore her signature black dress, her makeup impeccable, her voice steady. "I have made mistakes," she began, her crocodile tears flowing. "But I am not the monster they paint me to be." The public wasn't convinced. The once beloved queen of elegance had become a villain in her own story. Months later, Anastasia sat alone in a prison cell awaiting trial. Her empire was in shambles, her family broken, her secrets laid bare. But even in the face of ruin, she couldn't help but smile to herself. She had always been the perfect shadow, hiding in plain sight, casting darkness wherever she went. And though the world now hated her, they would never stop talking about her. After all, even villains deserve a legacy. Did you enjoy the story? Let us continue in the comment section. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much.
This is a tale of resilience, secrets, and destiny. As the rain pounded against the roof of the orphanage, little Naya curled up in her small cot, staring at the ceiling. She had been there for as long as she could remember. No parents, no family, just the cold walls of Hollowbrook Orphanage. Her earliest memory was of a woman's voice, soft, loving, singing her to sleep. But she had no face to match the voice, no picture. Nothing but a deep ache inside her chest whenever she thought about it. "Do you think our real parents miss us?" A younger girl, Mara, whispered from the next bed. Nia didn't answer right away. She had stopped believing in fairy tales long ago. The world was cruel, and she had learned to survive on her own. "I don't know," Nia finally whispered. But deep down, she wished someone out there was looking for her. The years passed. No one came. At 22, Nia aged out of the orphanage system. With no family and no home, she found herself on the cold streets of New York City, a world vastly different from the closed-off walls of Hollowbrook. She had nothing but a tattered suitcase, a resume, and a heart full of determination. But determination wasn't enough to land a job. "Sorry, we're not hiring. We need someone with experience. You're not the right fit." Rejection after rejection chipped away at her spirit. She slept in shelters, worked temporary jobs, and rationed every meal. One night after another failed interview, she sat on a park bench, exhaustion weighing on her. She watched people pass, businesswomen in tailored suits, men carrying designer briefcases. A life so close, yet completely out of reach. She clenched her fists. One day, I will make it. Nia's chance came unexpectedly. She was working as a barista when a woman named Lana Sterling, an executive from Elora Designs, stopped in for coffee. "You have a good work ethic," Lana commented as Nia handled a rush of customers with speed and grace. "I just do what I have to do," Nia replied, trying to keep her tone professional. Lana studied her. "Have you ever worked in fashion?" Nia shook her head. "No, but I learned quickly." Lana smirked. "Come by Elora Designs tomorrow morning. We might have an opening for an assistant." Nia's heart pounded. Elora Designs was one of the most prestigious fashion companies in the country. Was this finally her break? She didn't sleep that night. The next morning, dressed in the best outfit she could piece together, Nia stepped into the sleek, glass-walled headquarters of Elora Designs. Lana introduced her to her new job as a junior assistant. The work was demanding, endless tasks, late hours, but Nia thrived. Yet, there was one person in the company who remained an enigma: Eleanor LaRue, the elusive CEO. Eleanor rarely appeared in public. She ruled from the shadows. Known for her ruthlessness in business and her unmatched talent in design, rumors swirled about her past. Some said she built the company from the ground up after a great personal tragedy. Others claimed she had once lost something so precious that she never let herself feel again. Nia didn't concern herself with office gossip. She had a job to do. But fate had other plans. Over the months, Nia proved her worth. She was quick, resourceful, and unafraid to challenge ideas. Her designs, though unofficial, caught the attention of Lana and other executives. "Who made this?" one of the senior designers asked, holding up a sketch Nia had left on the desk. Nia hesitated. "I did." From that moment, doors began to open. She was invited to meetings, given small projects, and mentored by the top designers. Eleanor still remained distant, but Nia noticed something odd. Whenever she entered the same room as Eleanor, the CEO's gaze would linger on her for just a second too long, as if searching for something. One day, while organizing old company files, Nia stumbled upon something peculiar: a sketchbook with initials AL. Flipping through the pages, her breath caught. The designs, they looked familiar, not because she had seen them before, but because they reminded her of something deeply personal. She traced her fingers over a design of a blue dress with embroidered roses. It was exactly like the dress from her earliest memory, the one the woman in her dreams used to sing to her. Heart-pounding, she turned to the first page, where a handwritten note read, "To my darling Nia, may you always chase your dreams." Her stomach dropped. How did this end up in Elora Designs? Determined to uncover the truth, Nia did something reckless. She entered Eleanor's private office late at night. Digging through the locked drawers, she found a sealed envelope with a birth certificate inside. Her hands trembled as she read the name: Nia Amara LaRue. She stumbled back. LaRue. Eleanor's last name. A storm of emotions raged inside her. Could it be? Could Eleanor be? Before she could process it, the door swung open. Eleanor stood there, her eyes filled with something unreadable. "You have questions," she said, her voice unreadable. Nia's voice cracked. "Tell me the truth. Are you my mother?" Silence. Then Eleanor whispered, "I never wanted to lose you." Eleanor finally confessed. 22 years ago, she had been forced to give up Nia after a devastating betrayal by her business partner, Victor Hale. He had orchestrated a scandal, framing Eleanor's husband and forcing her to choose her child or her company. Terrified for Nia's safety, Eleanor placed her in a secret orphanage, planning to reclaim her when the danger passed. But Victor had ensured that Eleanor would never find her daughter again. Tears streamed down Nia's face. All this time, You were looking for me. Every day, Eleanor whispered. Victor Hale was still part of the company, now sitting comfortably as one of its major stakeholders. Realizing what he had done, Naya and Eleanor decided to bring him down. Gathering secret records and evidence of fraud, they built a case against him. The confrontation came during a high-stakes board meeting, when Eleanor exposed Victor's crimes: embezzlement, fraud, and manipulation. The board turned against him. Security escorted him out as he raged. "You'll regret this, Eleanor." But she only smiled. "I already have everything I need." She turned to Naya. "And now I have my daughter." With Victor gone, Eleanor publicly acknowledged Nia as her rightful heir. Nia, once an orphan struggling to survive, was now the future of Alara Designs. But more importantly, she had found her mother, and together they were unstoppable. Standing on the balcony of the headquarters, Nia gazed at the city skyline. She had fought through pain, rejection, and uncertainty. But in the end, fate had led her home, and now she was ready to change the world. Moral lesson: no matter how lost you feel, destiny has a way of bringing you to where you truly belong.
Did you enjoy the story? Drop your comments in the comment section. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
This is a story of Lena Wanjiru, a charming and well-respected air hostess. From the moment Lena first boarded a plane as a little girl, she knew she wanted to be an air hostess. The pristine uniforms, the graceful walk down the aisles, the charming smiles, it all seemed like a dream. Years of hard work and determination finally landed her a job with a prestigious airline. At first, it was everything she imagined: the compliments from passengers, the thrill of travel, and the sense of prestige. But soon, reality hit. The long hours were exhausting, the constant time zone shifts disorienting, and the salary, a cruel joke. Lena barely managed to cover rent in the expensive city where she was based. The illusion of glamour began to fade, replaced by frustration. Lena began to secretly rob passengers mid-flight for years, making it look like a string of mysterious thefts in the airline industry. She also stole from passengers in the first-class cabin. She believed she was untouchable until one fateful flight changes everything. What happens when the hunter becomes the hunted? Lena Wanjiru moved through the aircraft cabin with practiced grace, her blue uniform crisp, her dark brown hair neatly pinned beneath her cap. The passengers smiled at her, trusting, unaware. She was good at what she did, both as an air hostess and as a thief. She had mastered her craft over 5 years of service, discreetly lifting expensive jewelry, designer watches, and wads of cash from unsuspecting passengers. She had a method, a strategy. Mid-flight, when passengers drifted into slumber or became engrossed in movies, she would strike. She never took from the same flight twice, and she always ensured the blame landed elsewhere, perhaps on a fellow passenger. A careless moment or a misplaced bag. To everyone, Lena was the picture of professionalism. To the airline, she was an exemplary employee. But Lena had secrets: a brother in debt, a past she couldn't erase, and a desperation that made her justify every theft. "I only take from the rich," she told herself. "They won't even notice." And so her double life continued. On a particular flight from Johannesburg to Dubai, Lena spotted an easy target seat, 7A. A man dressed in a sharp grey suit with an expensive gold Rolex glinting on his wrist. He was engrossed in his laptop, occasionally checking his phone. The kind of man who had money and probably wouldn't notice a missing item. Her plan was simple. During the second meal service, when he'd be distracted, she would slip his wallet into her service apron, remove the cash in the lavatory, and return the wallet discreetly to his seat pocket before landing. But something felt different. The man wasn't like the others. His eyes, dark and observant, flicked up whenever she passed. It was as if he was watching her. Lena dismissed her paranoia. She had done this 100 times. As the flight progressed, she made her move. While handing him a drink, she smoothly slipped his wallet into the deep pocket of her apron. No hesitation, no tremor in her hands. Perfect execution. But as she walked away, her spine tingled. Had he noticed? Inside the lavatory, she counted the cash. US dollars, neatly folded. Over $3,000. A good haul. Then something caught her eye. Inside the wallet, hidden in a compartment, was a small black card with a single word printed in silver. Interpol. Her breath hitched. Heart hammering, she snapped the wallet shut. The realization hit her like a turbulence jolt she had. Stolen from an undercover officer. Panic rose in her chest. She had to return it, carefully, discreetly. Lena hurried back into the cabin, keeping her expression calm. But when she reached seat 7A, the man was looking straight at her. And then he spoke. "You took something that doesn't belong to you." Her blood ran cold. "Excuse me," she said, feigning innocence. The man leaned forward. "I know who you are," Lena warned. Her pulse spiked. How did he know her name? "I've been following you," he continued, his voice low. "You've been sloppy. You think no one notices, but I do." Lena forced a smile. "Sir, I don't know what you're talking about." The man reached into his jacket and pulled out a badge. "Detective James Carter, Interpol. We've been investigating a series of high-profile thefts on international flights, and I believe you are responsible." Lena's mind raced. He had no proof, just suspicions. "I don't steal," she said firmly. Carter smirked. "Then let's check your apron pocket, shall we?" Lena hesitated. She could feel the weight of the wallet against her hip. Her options were limited. If she refused, she would seem guilty. If she complied, she was caught. Before she could think of an excuse, another passenger, an elderly woman, shouted from the back, "My bracelet, it's gone." Carter's eyes never left Lena's. "Well," he said, "I think we just found our thief." Lena was escorted to the crew quarters as the flight continued. Carter sat across from her, arms crossed. "You've got two choices," he said. "Confess, return what you stole, and I might convince the authorities to go easy on you. Or deny it, and when we land, you'll be arrested immediately." Lena's throat was dry. For years, she had been in control. Now, the game had turned against her. She thought of her brother, deep in debt, the reason she had started stealing. But she also thought of the passengers she had wronged, the trust she had betrayed. Tears welled in her eyes. "I never meant to hurt anyone," she whispered. Carter sighed. "Everyone has a reason, Lena, but stealing is stealing." When the plane landed, Lena made a decision. She handed over everything she had stolen, including the elderly woman's bracelet and Carter's wallet. She confessed, sparing no details. Instead of immediate arrest, Carter gave her an alternative. "You're a smart woman," he said. "Help us. Work with us to catch the bigger criminals, the ones smuggling stolen goods through airlines." Lena hesitated. Could she turn from thief to informant? In the end, she chose redemption. She worked undercover for Interpol, exposing crime rings that used flight attendants to transport stolen goods. She helped dismantle an entire network, bringing justice to the victims. Though she had made mistakes, Lena found a new path, not as a thief, but as someone making amends. Lena's story teaches us that no matter how far we stray, redemption is always possible. Greed and desperation may lead us to make the wrong choices, but true change comes when we take responsibility for our actions. She thought she was untouchable, but in the end, the sky had eyes, and justice always finds a way.
Did you enjoy this story? Please drop your comments in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
This is a story about Governor Elias Moya. He was the shining light of his country, a man of humble beginnings. He had risen from the dusty streets of his childhood to lead his people with a vision of reform and integrity. Unlike the corrupt politicians before him, Elias was different, or so everyone believed. He had swept into office on a wave of hope, promising to clean the rot in the system. Infrastructure projects flourished under his administration. Hospitals received much-needed equipment, and for the first time in decades, the education sector saw significant investment. The people adored him, and the opposition struggled to find dirt on him. But there was one mystery, one anomaly in the carefully constructed image of Elias Moya, his chief of staff. Cello Kamal was a relic of the old system, a seasoned politician with a history of questionable dealings. Cello was the one thing that didn't fit the narrative of an honest government. Why keep a man like Cello in such a trusted position? The question lingered in the minds of political analysts, but Elias always brushed it off with a smile. Experience is necessary to navigate the system, he would say. But in private, Cello was more than just an advisor. He was a reminder. One evening, after a long cabinet meeting, Cello visited the governor's office. He shut the door behind him and walked over to Elias's desk, placing a thick, sealed envelope in front of him. Elias didn't need to open it. He knew exactly what was inside. "Time to settle," Cello said, his voice dripping with amusement. Elias exhaled, rubbing his temples. "You're pushing it too far." "Pushing what?" "The favors you owe me. The deal we made." Cello chuckled, then leaned forward. "Or should I remind you of who you were before you became Governor Moya? The people's savior?" Elias clenched his jaw. He had spent years burying his past, but Cello knew the truth. Elias had never been the hero the world thought he was. Before politics, Elias had been a desperate young man. Years ago, he had been a struggling teacher, drowning in debt, responsible for his ailing mother's medical bills. One fateful evening, a powerful syndicate approached him with an offer: help them launder money through a small school grant program, and in return, they would fund his campaign for office. Elias had initially refused, but when his mother's condition worsened, he gave in. He had told himself it was just a temporary compromise, a single misstep, and once he won, he had cut ties with them, choosing the path of righteousness. But Cello, who had orchestrated the deal, had never let him forget. Now, Cello was calling in his favor. "You will award the energy contract to my associates," Cello said, his tone light but firm. Elias's stomach turned. The energy contract was worth billions. If awarded corruptly, it would plunge the nation into financial turmoil. "I can't," Elias whispered. "You can," Cello corrected him, smirking. "Because if you don't, I'll release everything, the financial records, the old meeting transcripts, the signatures, and when the world learns that Governor Elias Moya is just another corrupt politician, your legacy will crumble. Your people will turn on you." Elias swallowed hard. Cello wasn't bluffing. For 3 nights, Elias barely slept. He considered different options, resigning, even fleeing the country. But every choice led to disaster. He would be humiliated, his family destroyed. On the 4th night, he made his decision. At dawn, he called a press conference. The room was packed with journalists eager for an announcement, expecting news about upcoming policies. Ilias stood at the podium, gripping the edges. He took a deep breath and, against every instinct, screaming at him to stop, he spoke. "I have lied to you all," he began. "For years, I have carried a terrible secret." The room fell into stunned silence. Elias revealed everything: the bribe, the syndicate, how he had won his first election through corruption. Gasps filled the room. His advisors looked horrified. Cello, watching from the front row, turned pale. "I have worked every day since to atone for that mistake," Elias continued, "but I refuse to let my past dictate my present. I will not be blackmailed into betraying the people who trusted me. I accept full responsibility for my actions, and I am ready to face the consequences." As he stepped down from the podium, cameras flashed wildly. The country erupted. The media spun into a frenzy. Opposition leaders seized the moment, and his closest allies distanced themselves. Cello, on the other hand, was cornered. He had lost his leverage. Within days, an independent commission launched an investigation not just into Elias, but also into the hidden network that had financed his campaign. Cello's name surfaced repeatedly, and the deeper the investigators dug, the more evidence they uncovered about his own corrupt dealings. A month later, Ilias resigned, but Cello was arrested, along with several members of the syndicate. Ilias's confession was both his downfall and his redemption. Though he lost his position, he earned something greater: the people's respect. The nation had been betrayed by many politicians before, but none had ever come forward with the truth on their own. Years later, after serving a reduced sentence for his past crimes, Elias returned not as a politician, but as an advocate for ethical leadership. His story became a lesson taught in universities, a reminder that true integrity is not about never making mistakes, but about having the courage to own them, no matter the cost. And as history remembered him, not as a perfect man, but as an honest one, Elias finally found peace.
So, did you enjoy the story? Please drop your comments in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. Meet Clara, a 34-year-old vibrant woman living in a bustling city. Clara was in a committed relationship with her boyfriend Jake, but their relationship had recently been through rocky waters. During a brief breakup, Clara met Liam at a mutual friend's party. It was a fleeting moment of connection, a one-night fling before she reconciled with Jake shortly after. Fast forward a few weeks, Clara discovers she's pregnant. Overjoyed, she and Jake celebrated the news. Little did they know that fate had a twist waiting for them that would defy everything they thought they knew about biology and love. 9 months later, Clara gives birth to two beautiful twin boys, Noah and Lucas. At first, everything seemed normal, but as the boys grew, their differences became impossible to ignore. Noah had Clara's striking blue eyes and sandy blonde hair, while Lucas had darker features and curly black hair like his dad. Family members jokingly teased Clara about the contrast, but the jokes carried an undercurrent of curiosity. Even Clara couldn't deny the nagging feeling that something was off. When the twins were 18 months old, Jake, plagued by doubts he couldn't shake, suggested a DNA test. Clara resisted at first, believing it was unnecessary, but Jake's insistence and their increasingly strained relationship pushed her to agree. The results came back, and what they revealed was beyond anything anyone had anticipated. Doctors explained the phenomenon known as heteropaternal superfecundation. an extremely rare occurrence where a woman's eggs are fertilized by two different men during the same ovulation cycle. In Clara's case, both Jake and Liam had fathered one of the twins. It was a one in a million twist of fate. The revelation sent shockwaves through their family. Jake was devastated, but eventually decided to stay in the relationship, recognizing his love for both boys. Liam, on the other hand, was stunned by the news. Initially, he wanted nothing to do with the situation, but as time passed, he grew curious about his biological son and asked to be part of Lucas's life. Clara was left to navigate the impossible balancing act of keeping peace between two fathers while raising her sons. Meanwhile, the boys, too young to understand, continued to grow up with their unique bond, blissfully unaware of the complicated web of emotions and biology that surrounded their existence. Over time, Clara, Jake, and Liam worked out an unconventional arrangement. Liam became a part of Lucas's life, and Jake embraced his role as a father to both boys. What started as a story of heartbreak and confusion evolved into one of love and acceptance. Today, Noah and Lucas are inseparable, unaware of how rare and remarkable their story is. To them, they are just brothers, proof that family isn't always defined by blood, but by the love and effort we choose to give. This rare tale of twin babies with two fathers is a testament to how life can surprise us in ways we would never imagine. It's a story of science, love, and the unpredictable twist of fate. What do you think? Could you imagine being in Clara's shoes? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more mind-blowing stories like this one. Thank you. In the heart of a quaint little town stood a centuries-old library known as Shadow Library. By day, it was a quiet haven for readers and researchers. The building's towering oak doors, stained glass windows, and labyrinthine bookshelves gave it an air of mystery. But by night, it transformed into something extraordinary, a place where stories came alive. It all began when the clock struck midnight. The library's grand clock, perched high above the entrance, let out a deep resonant chime. The vibrations seemed to ripple through the very walls of the library. Then came the first whisper. A soft rustling sound echoed through the aisles, but there was no wind. The pages of books fluttered open, as if stirred by invisible hands. Words began to lift from the pages, shimmering like golden fireflies. Characters emerged, translucent at first, before taking solid forms. At the center of the library, a figure appeared, cloaked in flowing robes made of parchment. This was Elara, the keeper of stories. She was neither human nor ghost, but a living embodiment of the library's magic. Her voice was like the rustling of leaves as she addressed the gathering characters. "Welcome back, my children," Elara said, her eyes glinting like ink under moonlight. "Tonight, we write a new tale," said Elara. The library's shelves were no longer static. Books shuffled themselves, seeking companions for their stories. Characters from vastly different worlds mingled. Sherlock Holmes debated tactics with Odysseus. Alice from Wonderland shared tea with Dracula, who sipped delicately from a porcelain cup. Every night, the stories rewrote themselves. The characters acted out new adventures, sometimes blending genres in unexpected ways. One night, a young woman named Clara accidentally stumbled upon the library's secret. She had stayed late, engrossed in a rare manuscript. When the clock struck midnight, she heard the whispers and saw the golden light dancing across the room. She hid behind a bookshelf, her heart pounding as she watched the characters come to life. But Elara sensed her presence. With a wave of her hand, Clara was drawn into the open. "You shouldn't be here," Elara said, though her tone was kind. "This is a sacred time." I didn't mean to intrude," Clara stammered. "But this is incredible. How is this possible?" Elara smiled. "Stories are alive, dear one. They've always been alive. This library is their sanctuary." Clara begged to stay and learn more. Elara saw the spark of curiosity in her eyes and decided to test her. She handed Clara a blank book. "Write," she commanded. "Your words will decide what happens next." Clara hesitated, but began to write. As her pen moved across the page, the library responded. A mist formed, and from it emerged a world Clara had created. An enchanted forest with towering silver trees and rivers of starlight. Creatures she had only imagined stepped out, thanking her for bringing them to life. "You have a gift," Elara said, "but gifts come with responsibility. Will you stay and protect this library?" Clara agreed, and from that night, she became the library's apprentice. She learned the art of weaving stories and keeping the balance between the worlds. Every night, she walked alongside Elara, ensuring the characters returned to their books before dawn. The town folks never knew the library's secret, but they noticed a new vibrancy in Clara. And every so often, readers would find their books more vivid, as though the characters within were truly alive. For in the Midnight Library, they were. And so the library continued its nightly magic, a hidden world where stories lived and imaginations knew no bounds. Did you enjoy this story? Click the like button, comment below, subscribe, and share. Thank you. Long ago, in a small African village, nestled by the edge of a sprawling savanna, there stood a massive baobab tree. This tree was unlike any other. Its bark shimmered faintly under the moonlight, and the elders claimed it had stood there since the world began. They called it Nzuri. The elders warned the villagers never to approach it at night. They said the tree harbored ancient spirits that spoke in riddles, granting wishes, but at a terrible cost. Despite the warnings, the villagers often gossiped about the tree. Some claimed it was a portal to another realm, while others swore they heard voices calling their names when they passed by. Amara, a curious and headstrong young woman, had heard the tales all her life, but she wasn't afraid. After losing her family to a mysterious illness, she longed for answers. Answers the whispering baobab might provide. One moonless night, when the village was asleep, Amara ventured into the savannah. As Amara approached the baobab, the air grew heavy, and the world seemed to hold its breath. She placed her hand on the shimmering bark, and immediately whispers swelled around her. The voices were neither menacing nor welcoming. They were ancient and strange. "You seek answers," the voices intoned, "but you must first give what is most precious to you." Amara hesitated. What could she give? She had nothing left, no family, no treasures, only herself. I offer my memories, she said finally, if it means I can find peace. The tree groaned, its roots shifting in the soil. A hollow opened at its base, revealing a staircase spiraling upwards. Without hesitation, Amara ascended the stairs. Amara found herself in a surreal world where the sky was deep red and the land glowed with an otherworldly light. Strange beings roamed the landscape, shadowy creatures with glowing eyes. They neither harmed nor helped her, simply watching as she wandered. At the heart of this strange realm stood a mirror like lake. The whispers grew louder, urging her to look into the water. When she did, she saw visions of her family, happy, alive, and together. Tears filled her eyes. Suddenly, the whispers turned into a chorus of laughter. You have been deceived, a voice boomed. What you sought was never lost. Amara's reflection in the water began to change. She saw herself not as the woman who had lost everything, but as someone darker, someone with power. She realized with a sinking heart that the illness that took her family was no accident. She had unwittingly been the cause, possessed by a curse tied to the tree. The whispering baobab had fed on her despair and guilt, twisting her memories to keep her trapped in sorrow. The answers she sought were meant to bind her to the tree forever, turning her into one of its whispering spirits. But Amara was no ordinary soul. She remembered the words of her late grandmother. The spirit of the living is stronger than the chains of the dead. Summoning her inner strength, Amara rejected the whispers. She screamed her defiance, and the world around her began to crumble. The baobab shook violently, its bark splitting as light poured from within. The spirits bound to it were set free, their whispers turning to joyful cries. The tree collapsed, leaving behind nothing but dust. When Amara awoke, she was back in the village, the sun rising over the savannah. The elders rushed to her, their eyes wide with disbelief. The whispering baobab, they said, had vanished overnight. Amara, now free from the curse, found a new purpose. She became the village's storyteller, warning others about the dangers of seeking answers in places better left undisturbed. Yet she carried a bittersweet hope that perhaps somewhere her family had found peace in the spirit's release. And so, the tale of this story reminds us not all mysteries are meant to be unraveled, and sometimes the answers we seek lie within ourselves, not in the echoes of the unknown. Did you enjoy this story and would like to see more of this type? Please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe for more. Thank you. In a quiet neighborhood where everyone knew everyone else's business, lived two lifelong friends, Mia and Rachel. They had been inseparable since childhood, but as they grew older, their friendship started to crack under the weight of petty jealousies and competition. During a neighborhood barbecue, Rachel had spread a rumor about Mia. It was something harmless but humiliating, a silly story about Mia's childhood fear of gardens. The laughter that followed Rachel's remark burned into Mia's mind. Mia, who had been the quieter of the two, decided she had had enough and was going to get back at Rachel, not with a simple prank, but with something much more elaborate. Mia plotted to send a chain of emails to everyone saying Rachel was organizing a party. The emails spread like wildfire, and soon the entire neighborhood was buzzing about Rachel's party. Rachel, who is a perfectionist, she was confused and horrified on how she was going to organize a party in just 2 days' time. She scrambled to organize a party that matched the expectations, and Mia, on the other hand, kept spying to see if Rachel would meet up to expectation. Rachel pulled off the party of the year, the ridiculous theme became a hit, and the karaoke contest turned out to be hilarious and bonding for the neighborhood. Even Mia had to admit it was a great time. But here's where the revenge truly went wrong. The night of the party, as Mia stood in the corner observing her victory, Rachel approached her and said, "I know it was you," Rachel whispered, a sly smile on her face. "Thanks for the idea. I couldn't have pulled it off without you." The next morning after, Rachel stood on her porch with a cup of coffee, looking victorious while Mia walks by, avoiding eye contact. Next, Mia is seen sitting on a park bench, lost in thought, her expression a mix of regret and determination as she contemplates her next step. Right now, the neighborhood discusses the aftermath of the party and always talks about Rachel organizing the best party ever, and here is Mia regretting her actions again as usual. Mia is found in her room regretting her actions and writing in her journal, "Never again." My moral lesson from this story is that revenges could backfire and hurt the person plotting or the person you're plotting to harm. What's your moral lesson? Drop it in the comment section. Thank you. This is a story of a young Nigerian woman in her 30s named Ada, who recently arrived in Manchester holding a small suitcase. With the autumn leaves scattered on the ground and a sense of determination on her face, Ada is determined to make it in a country such as the UK. Ada came into the country as a student and is found in her modestly furnished student room with a single bed, thinking of how to pay her tuition. Ada has no hope or help from anywhere. In a quest to pay her tuition, Ada sought to become a healthcare assistant in a retirement home. At the park, whilst pushing an elderly woman in a wheelchair, Ada bumped into Daniel, a tall man with a kind smile, jogging with his dog. Ada and Daniel both went on their first date in a cozy cafe, laughing over steaming cups of coffee. It finally became a proud moment, with Ada wearing a graduation cap and gown, holding her diploma, with Daniel and a small group of friends cheering for her. The lovebirds had a small, intimate wedding, with Ada in a simple yet elegant white dress, and Daniel in a tailored suit, surrounded by close friends and family. Few months later, Ada is seen holding a positive pregnancy test, with the doctor looking at the ultrasound scan. Ada's face is filled with disbelief and joy at the same time. Here is Ada with her lovely twins. Guess what? It's a boy and a girl. Ada, Daniel, and their twins sitting together on a couch, laughing and playing with a warm and inviting home setting. It really is a season of bloom for Ada, as she is found in a corporate office dressed in professional attire, holding a folder with a view of the city skyline behind her, exuding confidence and success. Yes, you can make it in a country that is not of your origination. Thank you.
In a small village called Yonza, the villagers lived in harmony with the land, fishing from the river and tending to their crops. Among them was Kalima, a widowed mother known for her beauty and kindness. She had a son, Toji, who had been born during a rare celestial event, a night when the moon shone brighter than ever, turning the dark skies into silver. From the moment Taji was born, the villagers believed he was special. They whispered that the moon had blessed him, for his eyes glowed with a light that seemed to hold wisdom far beyond his years. However, as Toji grew, he was different from the other children. He was quiet, preferring to sit by the river and gaze at the moon, while others played and worked. The villagers began to grow suspicious of Taji's silence and strange ways. They claimed his difference was unnatural, whispering that he brought misfortune. Kalima, though heartbroken by their words, defended her son fiercely, saying, "The moonlight does not curse. It reveals the beauty hidden in the shadows. One evening, when the moon was full and bright, a great drought struck Nyanza. The river dried up, the crops withered, and the village fell into despair. The elders consulted the diviner, who declared, "A child born of the moonlight holds the key to saving our village. But only if their heart is pure and their courage strong." All eyes turned to Taji. Though many doubted him, Kalima stood by her son. "You are destined for greatness," she whispered to him. "Do not fear the darkness. You carry the moonlight within you." Guided by his mother's words, Taji embarked on a journey to find the source of the drought. He followed the dried riverbed deep into the wilderness, where he encountered a guardian spirit in the form of a lion. The lion growled, "Why have you come, little moonchild?" Taji replied, "My village suffers. I seek the source of the drought to restore the river." The lion tested Taji's heart by placing him before 3 challenges: bravery, compassion, and sacrifice. Taji passed each with wisdom and kindness, proving his pure heart. Finally, the lion revealed the truth. The river's source had been blocked by a selfish spirit who hoarded the water. Taji confronted the spirit, pleading, "Water belongs to everyone. Without it, life withers." When the spirit refused, Taji offered the moonlight within him as a gift to light. The spirit's lonely dwelling, moved by his selflessness, the spirit released the water, and the river flowed once more. Taji returned to the village, a hero. The villagers, once doubtful, now celebrated him and learned a powerful lesson. True strength lies not in conformity, but in embracing one's unique gifts. Kalima, proud of her son, reminded them all, "The moon teaches us that even in darkness, light can shine from that day forward." The villagers lived with greater understanding and acceptance, teaching their children to see the beauty in differences and the power of kindness.